Yo, what's up? It is Chris from Brooklyn Wildlife, all things Gamba, and Black Land Ownership. I wanted to check in real quick. Now, you can see I've been up late, I've been getting up early, been putting in this work. It looks like we are going to be closing on land. But before I get to that, I'm going to Atlanta. On Monday, I leave. I'll be there from Monday, I believe, the 12th through Thursday, the 15th. Let's link up if you're in Atlanta. I used to live down there, so hopefully I still know some people there. I know I'm going to catch up with the homie Tony from Project Lumens. If you know about the first group I was in where we put out a record, it was with Aaron and Tony helped a lot with the first project and then produced almost all of the second project. Um, and hopefully I'll meet up with Sinton, who used to live in Harlem. That's the homie. He's down in Atlanta. And then Chief is down there. That's the homie. Hopefully I'll catch up with them. And we'll see who else is there. I think Chief Justice is also there. And whoever, like all the Morehouse folks, Spellman, Clark, whoever, hit me up. So I'll be in Atlanta. I'll be down there with the camera. So if you want to shoot, let's do some photo work. If you want to make some music, let's do that. We can talk about my book if you want to meet up. And definitely let's talk about Black land ownership. If you are in Georgia and you have access to space or know folks who are out in more rural areas, let's build. Now, in terms of Black land ownership, update. It looks like we will be closing on the land. And you're like, what's the land? Well, we started a conservation effort, right? So we still want to get the big plot that's like 40 acres. And when we do the artist residency and we're able to go out and bring the kids and the students and we can do all types of like farming activities. But with the market and the way everything's going, pandemic, that became just impossible. Like everyone fled the city, the cost of property went up, anything with a house on it is like unbelievably expensive. And looking at just plain rural land, I wasn't quite of interest to me. But then I interviewed some folks at the Land Trust Alliance, and I learned more about conservation land and what you can do if there's a conservation easement or if it's been designated as a wetland area. And so we started looking in that route, and we found a property up in Otsego County, which is near Cooperstown, Baseball Hall of Fame, and Lake Otsego. And it's 15.6 acres. It is in a conservation easement, about 85%, 90% wooded, and we're able to be conservationists. And so we will be helping to protect trees, protect vegetation, protect wildlife, protect the flora, protect the fauna, while we are able to also camp, hike, bring folks out, introduce them to nature in a safe space. So if you're worried about like hiking or going camping in a public park because you think maybe the park rangers or the police might mess with you, or the other people camping, we'll have private property where you're able to set up your tents, you're able to go camp. We want to set up audio tours, and so you'll be able to get an audio file and hopefully customize them. So we'll have different artists and different people that have come out to the land kind of create their own tours, like as they go around and explain what's of interest to them on the property, then you can listen to their version of it. We want to have a sculpture park. I don't know if I've ever been to an outdoor sculpture park that wasn't a major museum and saw people of African descent represented. So if you're a sculptor or you know people that do large scale sculptures, it's hard to get out there. So I mean, we're gonna have to, if it's big sculpture and you need something larger than a car, it's gonna be hard to get it out there. We do not have a big budget, but we'll figure it out. You know, like we're gonna be engaging in new endeavors. We are also gonna be able to do like yurts and let me make sure I didn't cut it off. All right, we are gonna be able to do yurts and teepees and tree houses. We will be able to do wildflower garden. We won't be able to augment the landscape in any way that's detrimental to the wildlife or the plants there. All right, so we won't be able to build a house. We will not be able to build a recording studio. We won't be able to set up a horse stable. But we will be able to do what the original plan was, which was buy land. And if we can figure it out, I know you can. And I know it's like whenever people say like, if I did it, you can do it. It's like, no, everyone lives a different life. True. But in the sense of any barrier that you would think there is to buying property, I think we somewhat encounter it in the sense of we didn't own a business before. We had never purchased. We had never owned a business before. We had never purchased property. None of us are in real estate. None of us are from families that are wealthy enough to just give us money. And really, no one's from a wealthy family. So there's no like seed money like that. None of our friends were able to give us $40,000. We were totally unfamiliar with that part of the state. We had to learn a lot about upstate New York and Westchester County, Putnam County, Dutchess County, Columbia County, Ulster County, Orange County, Sullivan County, Delaware County, until we got up to Otsego, Oneida, and some of those other Albany, like in central New York. In terms of raising money, like we raised about $16,000 or $17,000. We don't run like a not-for-profit that's known. Like we started as a kind of mutual aid group of sorts, like in the sense of we were organized and we had a plan and the money didn't go to us, but we weren't an organized entity recognized by the state. And so raising money is really difficult. And so if we could figure out how to raise $16,000 or $17,000 over the course of 2 or 3 years without any money, like we didn't come into it with like money from our day jobs that we could dump into this, then I know that we can show people the format. Now, yes, it took a lot of time and effort to get to this point, but because we've already done it, you can save time and effort. If you're interested in conservation land, and I know a person would be like, why would you buy land you can't go live on? And I'll tell you, part of it is I'm not ready to move out to the woods yet. And so whenever we talk to people about black land ownership, especially if they lived in New York or if they really enjoyed urban living, their response was like, yo, I don't want to move out to the middle of nowhere yet. And if I own a house out there or if I own a property out there and it's not the main residence, you don't get the same loan rate. So like anyone who's like, yo, you can buy a house for 3% down and the government has all these programs. That's like, yeah, if you're a first-time homeowner and that is going to be your primary residence. If you have an apartment in New York or a house in New York and you buy a house outside of New York City, they will not allow you to count that as a primary residence. And what you pay down and what you pay down and what you have to pay in interest and the type of loan you can get is much different. And if you're not on that property, someone could break in and steal all your copper pipes, or they could start squatting on your property, or who knows what could happen if you own a residence in a rural area and you're never there. So in this case, I don't have to move anywhere. I don't have to worry about running and maintaining a residence away from where I actually live. It's conservation land. Like I'm finally overlapping my interest in black empowerment and environmentalism in this form of doing conservation. So now you have a black person that owns property but engaged in activities that hopefully serves to better the planet, spread more information and awareness about land ownership when it comes to people of African descent, and stewardship of like the earth and nature and the environments around us. Oftentimes I found the conversations to be almost contentious. Like the people that stood up for environmentalism often didn't show up at the conversations about blackness and vice versa, you know? And so I like that we're able to do both. And by having this conservation land, we're able to pay for it all. Yo, people keep calling me. I'm going to flip out. By doing conservation land, we're able to pay all up front. If we had tried to buy a property with a house on it in this current climate, anything over 20 acres and a house and within a 2-hour drive, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm talking about when we first started looking, you could see some property for like $190 that was kind of tight. You could see stuff for like $250 with a house on it that was kind of tight. You'd have to do some remodeling or work on it, but kind of tight. You get up into 300 or 400s, you're talking about space and like a house that might already be finished. Now, seeing properties where the house is a trailer and the property is small and it's like 280, 300, and it's just not worth it. And you'd have to take out a loan where, again, it would be a second residence, so we wouldn't be able to get that 5% down or that 3% down or even 10%. We probably have to put 20% down. So you're looking at a $300,000 residence. That's $60,000 up front. Now you're looking at monthly payments. Now the monthly payments might actually be less than what we pay at Gamba. But thinking about it, with this conservation land, it's really hard to get an agricultural loan. And in order to do so, you normally have to be buying above a certain number of acres, and the interest rates are higher, and the amount of the principal you have to put down is higher. But because this property is so relatively inexpensive, it's $20,000 or $21,000, we're paying all up front. So we've raised the $17,000. The next couple of weeks, we're trying to raise this last $4,000. But we pay all up front, and then we don't have a mortgage payment. We're not dealing with banks. It makes the closing a lot less expensive because we're not dealing with loan agents. We don't have to do appraisals in the same way. When you buy a house, it's a much different arrangement. So I would definitely encourage people to talk to me about conservation land, how to get involved with conservation, land trusts. And also, if you don't know, if you start a land trust or work with a land trust, right, or you have property and you want to put it in easement, you get a tax break when you put it into easement. And you also can get the tax break based on the value of what you could have done with that property if you didn't put it in easement. So we could consider doing the following. And the example of it is not a person I like or support, but I'm letting you know how things are situated and structured, right? So we could buy a piece of property that's 50 acres. We could then turn 15 or 20 acres of it into conservation land and then use the other 20 or 30 acres for whatever purposes. We want to go hiking, we want to have live shows, we want to kick it, and do it as a social club. All right, so when you register your business, you can function as an incorporated, like INC. You can function as an LLC. You can function as a sole proprietor. You can S corp, B corp. There are all these different things you can do. When people think of like not-for-profits, they think they're not corporations or that they're different from a corporation. That's not the case. A not-for-profit or 501c3 is a type of business. So before you even start a not-for-profit, you start a regular business. At that point, if you want to have tax-exempt status where you don't pay taxes in the same way, or people who donate are able to get some type of benefit, you have to register with the IRS. So there are two steps. It's like you as a business have to register with the state and the government. And then if you want to be a not-for-profit, you register with the IRS to get that status, and they explain all that takes. 501c3 is one of them. There's 501c4, which allows you, I think, to be a lobbying group. There are all these different things you can do. A church, one of them is a land trust, and a land trust like stewards conservation easements, or like make sure that the land is held in the way it's supposed to be. And another is a social club. You know what is a social club? A golf club. Now I wouldn't do that, but if you start a golf club on your 30 acres, anyone who's paying to have a membership, you get the money to run your social club, and you also get a tax break. If you put 20% of that land into easement, you get a tax break for putting in the easement the value of what the land could have been used for. So if you know you have a social club and a golf course that could generate $1 million in 5 years, if you had total of 50 acres and now you've lost 40% of that, well then that's a $400,000 tax break. So that means on the business you run for the next however many years, you have that $400,000 cushion until you hit that before you start paying taxes. Okay, so now a person could say, dog, that doesn't make money. If you don't pay taxes for years, as you were utilizing the land that you paid for up front and you don't have to make payments on, and you're not paying interest rates, when you sell the land, you have definitely profited. Now, will selling land in a conservation easement be difficult? Yes. Will selling land that's a wetlands be difficult? Yes. So what you want to do is buy property that's close to government-owned land already or borders it, because often different municipalities are trying to buy up the land, and the people who own it are trying to sell it at a rate that's super high because they know the government wants it, a power company wants it, a hydroelectric company wants it, what have you. So you can do that. So just that right there, and I ain't even getting that you might be able to timber it. So each easement's different. Some conservation easements say you can't do anything to the property. You can't even step on the property. You can't go near it because the iron on your boots left from walking in the street in New York is going to poison some plant. There are other easements that say we are already a fully functioning dairy farm. We don't want this to be turned into something that's a huge development / agribusiness type of facility. So we're going to put it in easement so it can never be larger than a farm with this many cattle stalls and this many paddocks. And that means you can still run a farm on it. So it doesn't mean you can't use the land. It depends on the particular easement. So that's the update with that. I don't know. There was one more thing I was going to talk about, and I totally forgot. But whatever. That's the main rundown. Land, Atlanta. I hope you're having a good day. Enjoy yourself. Come see us. I still have Black Land Ownership t-shirts. Oh, and if you want to support me going to Atlanta, don't worry about that. Donate to the land, all right? All the money goes to the land. It doesn't go to my pocket. It goes into either a PayPal or an account. We started a business, so we actually have a business account for Black Land Ownership. The money goes there, all right? And so if you want to support me going to Atlanta, just, give me a shout. Link me with somebody you know down there. I'll be doing photos, down to do music, down to do whatever. But if you want to support the cause in terms of bread and we only are in existence because people have chosen to donate. If that's what you want to do, I can give you the link. You can also hit up the GoFundMe. You can send me a note on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of those things. Text me, and I'll holler. All right, be safe, y'all.